Groucho and Harpo Marx performed an ingenious mirror scene in the movie Duck Soup. It is fascinating how many connections there are between the scene and Genesis, chapters 1 and 2. The scene begins with Groucho, dressed in pajamas, running toward and breaking a mirror on a wall, creating an opening in the wall. He leaves the mirror area but returns soon afterward. When he returns, Harpo, who has been made to look exactly like Groucho, is on the other side of the wall and pretends to be Groucho's mirror image. Groucho performs gestures, periodically exiting the sides of the opening, which is now an imaginary mirror, to come up with his next set of gestures. Harpo, who is Groucho's reflection, mimics Groucho's gestures, including synchronizing his entrances with Groucho's entrances each time, from the side of the opening. This frame shows Groucho doing what he does periodically throughout the scene, which is to exit the side of the opening to think about which gestures he will try next. Since Harpo is Groucho's reflection, he has also exited the opening. Harpo cannot see Groucho, so the question is, how can Harpo know when Groucho will re-enter the opening, to again be in front of the imaginary mirror, to perform the next set of gestures? In order to be an accurate reflection of Groucho, Harpo needs to be able to synchronize his entry with Groucho's entry. In Genesis, chapter 2, the Lord God mimics what God had done in chapter 1. In chapter 1, verse 1, God created the heavens and the earth. In chapter 2, verse 4, the Lord God made earth and heaven. In chapter 1, verse 27, God created man. In chapter 2, verse 7, the Lord God formed man. Therefore, Groucho connects with God, and Harpo connects with the Lord God. Now, here's where it gets especially interesting. Consider the times in the scene in which Groucho and Harpo are beside the opening. The question is, was there anything Harpo could have used to help him see Groucho in order to synchronize with Groucho as he re-enters the opening to be in front of the imaginary mirror? Well, theoretically, Harpo could have used 3 actual mirrors for each side of the opening. It's a theory, for 2 reasons. The main reason is that the actual mirrors would be visible to the viewer. The second reason is that the 2 of them, no doubt, practiced several times in order to get the timing exact. Alternatively, Harpo could have used the mirrors only when they practiced, in order to enhance his muscle memory and visualization ability, which would help him during the filming. Indeed, Harpo could have used only 1 mirror, on each side of the opening, that would not be visible to the viewer. Nevertheless, either theory, the 3 mirrors theory or the 1 mirror theory, connects beautifully with Genesis 1 and 2. And both theories have a fascinating correlation with respect to the Marx Brothers alone. Now, at this point, I could simply reveal to you how the 3 mirrors could be oriented to enable Harpo to see Groucho. But that would deprive you of the chance to experience the enjoyment of discovering it for yourself. Pause the video now if you wish to take some time to work on determining the orientation of the 3 mirrors. Here are a few hints. 1. View from above, looking down on the scene. 2. Groucho's marks, the marks he painted on his face. 3. Side path. This includes Harpo's initial view toward the first mirror and the reflections off the first mirror and the other 2 mirrors. 4. The brothers' last initial. The orientation of the 3 mirrors is as follows. A. Harpo will look into a mirror placed on Harpo's side of the wall. B. The next mirror in the side path is on the opposite side of the opening, at the side where Harpo is standing in the picture. C. The final mirror is placed on Groucho's side. Mirrors A1 and C1 are angled toward mirror B1. Harpo's side path starts with his initial view into mirror A1. The path reflects off A1 toward B1. Similarly, the path goes from B1 to C1. The final portion of the side path reflects from C1 toward Groucho. Viewing the mirror orientation looking down from above, the mirrors resemble Groucho's marks on his face, where mirrors A1 and C1 resemble his eyebrows, and B1 resembles his mustache. Viewing the side path looking down from above, the path resembles an M, as in Marx. The side path also resembles a 3, which symbolizes the 3 mirrors. The side path also resembles a W. Harpo is Groucho's reflection, or his double. Speaking to Groucho, a person would say, Harpo is W, Groucho. The 3 mirrors can be at any height, as long as mirrors A1 and C1 point toward mirror B1. Of course, there would be a similar set of 3 mirrors, A2, B2, and C2, to be used when Groucho is on the other side of the opening. There would therefore be 6 mirrors in the 3-mirror theory. In the 1-mirror theory, there would only be the mirrors on Harpo's side, mirrors A1 and A2. The 2 mirrors would be rotated slightly to point toward where Groucho would be standing, rather than toward B1 and B2 in the 3-mirror theory. In the 1-mirror theory, the orientation of the mirrors still resembles Groucho's marks when viewing from above, looking down. Mirrors A1 and A2 would resemble Groucho's eyebrow marks, and the imaginary mirror would resemble his mustache mark. There is a strong connection between mirrors in the Marx Brothers Mirror Scene, and days, in Genesis 1 and 2. Beginning. At the beginning of the mirror scene, the mirror breaks. In the beginning of the Bible, morning occurs. Morning is the break of day. The number 3. In the mirror scene, according to the theory, Harpo uses 3 mirrors to see Groucho so he can synchronize his entry and repeat Groucho. In the Bible, the phrase "let there be light" is repeated after 3 days. Consider the phrase, "let there be light." Now consider one word in that phrase, the word "there," which can also mean "at that location." If you will allow me a little levity, especially since these connections involve the Marx Brothers, let's substitute this meaning of "there" to create another interpretation. "Let there be light" could be interpreted as "let there, at that location, be light." In other words, let light be at that location, where that location is the mirror scene, especially the imaginary mirror itself. Now, let's consider the previous frame, regarding the 3 mirrors, in conjunction with the phrase, "let there be light." Let us now put these 2 frames together. Groucho symbolizes God, who is light. Groucho, therefore symbolizing light, is there, at that location, the scene. And his image is in the imaginary mirror. Indeed, Harpo is Groucho's image in the imaginary mirror. So, let's consider the phrase, "let there be lights," plural, from verse 14 of Genesis 1. Since Harpo, who symbolizes the Lord God, is also there, including in the imaginary mirror, there are now lights, plural, there, in that location. addition to the number 3, the number 7 plays a role in the connection between mirrors and days. There are 7 total mirrors in the mirror scene, 2 sets of 3 mirrors to help Harpo see Groucho, and the imaginary mirror in the opening. In Genesis 1 and 2, there are 7 days, 6 days for the creation, and the 7th for resting. Image and likeness. The concept of images is quite common to both the mirror scene and Genesis 1. Indeed, the mirror scene requests the viewer to imagine a mirror being there, in addition to Harpo being in Groucho's likeness, Harpo being Groucho's image, in that mirror that can be described as imaginary. In Genesis 1, God mentioned making man in his likeness, and he did create man in his image. The version of the Bible used for these videos is the New American Standard. This is not, by any means, a claim that this version is the best version. The infinitesimal detail of the biblical harmony found in the connections related to this version could also be present in other versions. Near the end of the mirror scene, a second person with Groucho's likeness appears. There are then a total of 3 who have the same likeness. The New American Standard Version uses more than one name in referring to God in Genesis 1 through 4. It uses the names, God, Lord God, and Lord. This video will assume that these are the beings referenced in God's use of the term us. In Genesis 1:26, all 3 beings appear to have the same likeness, since God refers to our image and our likeness. As mentioned before, viewing the mirror orientation from above, the mirrors resemble Groucho's marks. There is a connection between Jesus, who came from above, and Groucho's marks, since the orientation of the marks corresponds with the places where Jesus' body was nailed to the cross. Groucho's eyebrow marks correspond with Jesus' hands, and Groucho's mustache mark corresponds with Jesus' feet. Groucho also has the following connection with Jesus. One of Groucho's signature songs was, "Hello, I must be going." Jesus said, "I have come into the world, I am leaving the world again." That's found in John 16:28. How about that? Isn't that interesting? Respectfully, if you do not believe God exists, I have 2 questions for you. Is there even the slightest possibility that these connections are not mere coincidences? Would you be willing to consider whether they increase the probability that God might exist? To those who do already believe God exists and that the Bible contains His words to us, perhaps you have a friend who does not believe. That friend might consider these connections and decide whether they are mere coincidences. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this analysis.